Good evening. I want to go over the long-term US dollar Japanese yen chart as I'm trying to find the next move, which looks like it'll be a big one, and I want to try to determine when it'll come and if we have another move down first over the next few months before it appears. So I'm going to refer to the long-term chart in dollar yen because the one I have in front of me only goes back to 1993. The long-term dollar yen chart goes back to 1971 when Nixon closed the gold window and the US came off the gold standard. You can see the date at the bottom. It's on FX top. Now I'm going to apply Elliott Wave to this chart, which seems to be just about perfect if my interpretation is correct. And what we're going to try to do, which I haven't fully prepared, I've only looked at in certain parts, is find when the next wave will come, because there appears to be another big move to follow. And I would like to know if it's where we are essentially at the end of this, because I cannot draw on this chart because it's on a different website, but I will go over it step by step. So starting from 1971, we had a 5-wave down move. Into about, what was that, 1973 or so. 3-wave correction, and then wave 3 began. Wave 1, wave 2, and then the middle third broke down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for wave 3. Then there's a wave 4 sequence here, and wave 5. Now there are a couple interpretations of this, which I will go over on the other chart because I have it on my main chart. So just to repeat, 1 and 2, and 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. Now we have to determine what kind of 4 it is, and this is all part of 3. So wave 3 runs from here through to here, basically, and possibly beyond, though I think it finished here. So back to this chart, which is a monthly chart. This low here, which is the low of the middle third, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 3, and now we're in 4 of 3, so that's here. So I have to determine what kind of 4 this is. Now I see it basically as two things. It could be a flat or it could be a triangle. I prefer the triangle scenario because a flat will be out of proportion. In Elliott Wave, there are basically, in addition to the typical model, which is a pattern, a wave sequence, in addition to that, there's a component of proportion and time. And if you look at a lot of Elliott Wave charts, you'll see the proportions are off, where waves 2 and waves 4, the corrective waves, are often well out of proportion. Wave 2 will be tiny and wave 4 will be enormous, or vice versa. And the time between them will not be in line. And you want to have a certain kind of proportional meeting. They don't have to meet in a time sense exactly, but a certain proportion between them should exist. So starting with the flat idea at the end of wave 3 of 3, the flat idea on this is 3 up and 3 down. A, B, C, that's 3. And then from here, this sequence is a 5-wave impulse, which I have detailed on the next time frame one down, which I'll go over later. So this is not exactly, if this is 3, 3, and 5, it's unlikely this is a running flat because it's too short. So what would follow probably would be a wave 2 correction, a big wave 3, 4, and 5, probably an expanding flat because this did break the low over here. The problem with this count, there's mainly one problem with this. though I can point out a second in a moment. The main problem with this count is the proportion. A wave 4 of wave 3 running from 1995 through to 2000 and who knows, you could say 2020, let's say. So 25 years. That does not match at all with the type of proportion we have for wave 2 of 3 here. Wave 2 of 3 here was simply from about 1970, 79 or so. For about, let's say, 5 years. So to have a wave 2 of wave 3 that takes about 5 years, and a wave 4 of wave 3, which takes 25 years, is out of proportion. It's just too absurd to have this small wave 2 here and this enormous wave 4. It doesn't work. Wave 4s can often be more time wasting, whereas wave 2s will spike up in sharper 3-wave corrections. However, this type of enormous difference between the two is ridiculous. So in my opinion, that's not a valid count. Another objection I would make to this if you want to label this a 5-wave sequence, so you have A, and then the down move is A, and this is A, B, C for B, and then C. Let me make this simpler. If that's a 5-wave down move, then this too is probably a 5-wave down move. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. No overlap. So I'm not buying this. I think these are both 3-wave moves. And my opinion of this is that we have overall again 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now wave 4 here, if you mark this as a triangle, it's in proportion to wave 2 here. So I'm going to mark wave 4 of wave 3. I have too many, I shouldn't put it, never mind. As a triangle like this. So from the wave 3 low, we have A, B, C, D, E. And wave 5 coming down. In order to force this, I will have to do an ending diagonal. Something I have to force an ending diagonal with a series of 3s overall with the sharp ending. I cannot use this entire idea for a 25-year flat for just wave 4 of wave 3. Otherwise, the other wave 4 to follow will be ridiculous. So in my opinion, we've had 3 of 3 here. 4 of 3 is a triangle. And 5 of 3 is an ending diagonal. One, two, three. So that's fine. In my opinion, that's valid. So just to carry on from here, so if we mark this down, I'll just leave a small 3 there to say that that is completely the end of wave 3. So from there, we're moving into a larger wave 4, so an up move. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now a bigger wave 4 to come. So what we've had from 2011 to 2015, there was a large 5-wave sequence here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 3, wave 4, and 5 waves up here. So From there, we had a three-wave correction, and we've currently been working the next move up, which if overall this is going to turn into a three-wave sequence, it can morph into a number of different ways. I'm not going to go over all the ways. There are more than I can consider right now. But what I would say, what's crucial about this is we've had a five-wave impulse. That's 5 waves up. So there's going to be another up move to follow. The question is how it's going to come in over the next few months. And generally, fourth waves retrace to fourth waves of a lower degree. So we're probably looking at, we've already come up to what would be the end of wave 4 here, but most likely it's going to extend to at least a new high and quite possibly higher up than that if this current count is correct. So that's the 5-wave sequence. Now from there we've had 1, 2, and 3 correcting. I put an awkward looking ending diagonal on this because the Brexit spike sent it ridiculously low, and what normally happens is when there's one massive spike down which is out of proportion, there will follow some kind of truncation. So I'm going to use this as a truncated move here, because if you're going to use the actual literal low as a low back in summer 2016, in my opinion, that's just going to be 3 waves up. So I'm going to look at this as the first wave here. Now there are a number of counts to put on this. The most important thing is to try to get a 5-wave move out of this, because looking on the monthly, the weekly, let me take it from the weekly. I would like to think that the low is in because we've had a 3-wave down move already. Now it needs to be determined if this low is going to be the main low and we're having a 5-wave sequence, a correction, and another move up, or if we've simply seen first part down, a 3-wave move here, and either one more move to follow for a 3-wave correction, or we have a kind of triangulating pattern in the middle here and another move up. Now none of that, we won't know any of that right now. The point is just to determine the next move based on what's happened recently. So going over the recent moves, I've been looking at it for the past year, half year, like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for 3, and I was trying to get a wave 4 low here, and I thought I had it as a 5-wave impulse here, that very steep correction which I went over in all the videos last month, and ultimately it turned into just a simple 3-wave move with another move down. Now what this looks like to me right now is a 3-wave move. It started very choppy, another 3-wave move followed, and I'm going to see if we can find a low in here, 110 to 109, for another move up. Now the question is going to be what type of move that is. Is that really wave 4 to follow? And then we come to a new high, or is this somehow already a 5-wave sequence? And that this is just a correction of that, and then we have another big move to come above 118. So if it's 4, it could be wave 4 and another move to follow above 118, but because the proportion is huge and somewhat out of too big for this, it must be about 4 times, 5 times the size, it's more likely that this is a second wave of some sort. And it still has to be determined if this is just some kind of 3-wave move, and maybe we get a bounce and another move, or something else entirely. No one knows right now. The next move up will tell, but what I'm looking at right now is that this is corrective, most importantly. I'm going to look at this as some type of channel, possibly channeling correction. We're not quite there yet. I'll go over this section first, and then I'll deal with, this was a WXY pattern and 3 moves up which followed, and from this high we've probably done 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I should have labeled this before. Five for 3, 4, and 5. So it's possible this is done now as a 5-wave move. And we have a lot of divergence on the chart, and we see a move up from here. Now the question is, we don't have any sign that it's basing. All we have is a small engulfing type of candle here, which probably won't be enough. Now, I would really prefer, we have made a new low, which is crucial, and I will judge this on the bounce, but what I would really like to see is another 3-wave pattern. So we've had a series of 3s here too, and ideally, if this is 5 done now, we will see a type of correction and perhaps one more low, and that would be excellent if we see into the 109 level and a move up. Because this move up, whether it's 110, 109 or so, if it materializes, we're talking about 800 points or so. If we can catch, well, let's say 500 to catch the gist of it, with possibly a much higher move to come. Because the ultimate target on this move is above the 2015 high, so above 126, somewhat possibly extending towards 146. Now, as I mentioned in today's update, it looks like another bullish sequence is coming into the dollar for possibly a final wave, and sometimes those become quite manic. No one will really know how it is at the moment, but one more wave at least is what I'm looking for right now. So I'm trying to take this, like with US Canadian dollar, for another move up to come. Now, what I should focus on right now is how this 5-wave sequence appears. I have to say it is best to look at this as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if I alter this, and I take it as 1, 2, 1, 2, and then I count from here, which I've done on a lower time frame, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, triangle for 4, 5 waves there. The problem with this count is the size 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You might be able to get away with that, but the 1 and 2 here and the 3 and 4 there, you're not going to get away with. That looks ridiculous. So I cannot really take it like that. Another interpretation can be something like what I did with Euro Australian dollar, where I forced a very ugly leading diagonal, which worked. This is in no way a typical leading diagonal. It may be better to entirely recount this actually. It's just a corrective sequence of 3 up, 3 down, and then a series of 3s here. However, I used it as a very ugly leading diagonal, somewhat cheating, you could say, but the point is that it worked, and the only point of this is to really make money and to use Elliott Wave as a guide, in addition to candles, in addition to some support resistance trend lines, in addition to overall price action, and some other factors like stochastics and divergence. So if I use a forced triangle leading diagonal there, I could replicate that here. Again, it's ugly. Again, it's not customary, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get by. So if I do that and I put 1 there, 1 there, 2 there, 3 there, 4 is then in proportion, and 5 here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not great, but I'm trying to find another move to justify a further upward move, because the original look of having this as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the best look, makes me think that this type of huge sequence here is not really likely. I mean, if you look You can see, you can use your naked eye on this type of thing, but overall, you're talking about wrong one. 25 days, 109 days, maybe more. And that's not great. That looks, I wouldn't do that. This is the type of thing I'm talking about where it would look ridiculous. Who knows, maybe it does turn out like that, but you know, you have to do what you have to do sometimes to make this work. And so I'm thinking about using the leading diagonal. So this has gone, I've been too long-winded about this. I'll try to be more brief. So the situation basically, if you use this current count of 1, 2, 3 only, you could have a 4, and I am looking right now, I am bullish on this because this has been corrective, so I'm looking for another move up. Now, probably we'll have another gyration and down. There's no type of, it would be good to see some divergence more, or a bigger situation, or at least a small impulse to get into for the next swing up before entering. But I'm going to remain bullish on this sequence for now, despite this, and I will keep in mind the forced leading diagonal on it. Alternatively, I know there's some bears out there on US dollar yen, and I am too, but not from here as such. So we had a 5-wave sequence, A, B, or sharp X wave, and we're going to see something else now. So that's possible, but I'm going, because this has been impulsive and I'm looking for a dollar low and more dollar strength to enter the market, I am going to look for a continued move up from here. We've already had this type of trendline resistance and support, so I would like to see this continue up. Another point is that the weekly stochastics are nearing a low here. Another point is that the monthly stochastics are trending up above 50. Another point is that right now, as I mentioned in the other video, dollar bulls, sentiment amongst dollar bulls is only 37%. So there's a lot of strength to come. Bullish sentiment in the yen is right now at 61% or so, above 60%. So that's by no means an extreme, but with the expected return of dollar strength, I would like to see this continue up from here. If it can find a low, stay above the 80 MA, keep this trending up, this is the preferred move. I mean, this 5-wave sequence is beautiful. It's in proportion, it's in one long sweep. It has a very clean count to it. So the point of this video is only to try to figure out what is happening next. And with a possible channel here, whether this is 4 or what I prefer it to be as either 2 of this sequence with 1 up here and 2, or some other type of corrective pattern with like a 3-wave move, X wave up to 116 or so beneath that high, and then another move down, that's still a good bullish move to catch on to. So what I'm looking for is some type of bullish impulse here and to get in on a correction, alternatively some chop and another low and to get in on that. Because I think the bulls have a very good chance to move up here and to advance on this. So if we're looking at this whole sequence and we've had wave 4, pardon me, wave 3 ending here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're now in wave 4. Now it could morph into a bunch of ways, but the crucial thing about this entire chart and all the talking I've been doing is that we've had a perfect 5-wave sequence up here. So whatever happens here, I'm going to remain bullish on this for the next few years in an attempt to get in on a long position, starting quite soon, I hope. So long as this bullish move remains valid, I'm looking for this to continue. Now, this might be a relatively brief 4. If you look at this chart, the wave 2 here lasted just about 5 years or so. And so far, we've already been in 5 years. So as a minimum, one more move up here. 5 waves here. Just a question of how this materializes. I'm going to be watching this closely for the next move up from a possible channel. Something like that. It could be in threes. It could be a 5-wave sequence up. But in total, some type of 3-wave move to head higher, preferably with dollar strength. Because ultimately, I'm looking for the dollar to turn around, not too far in the future. I don't think the dollar has made a low yet. I don't see this, pardon me, has made a high yet. It hasn't made a low either. But I do not have a bearish sequence here. There would have to be some kind of unexpected drop here, and I would be forced to count this sequence as a leading diagonal, whereas now it's clearly a 3. So this chart, going back to 1971, if we say it's been 45 years or so, it has a perfect Elliott wave structure on it and has had this wonderful sequence down. That's how well it can work. Now we have to figure out what the next move is and try to get into it. So the next move will be up. The question is, in my opinion, if it's starting around here from this channel, or if we've got more correction beneath the 2016 low, and then a move up, which would... See, the thing is, this, even if other dollar pairs sink on a falling dollar, it is possible for one pair to be an outlier, such as this, if the yen is weaker. That type of thing could happen. But I prefer to see higher. I prefer to see this 5-wave move remain intact. And then ultimately, I would expect this to turn back around sometime and to head down for a final 5th wave to see the dollar really plummet beneath, what is this, 75? Yeah, ultimately beneath 75, and to see a really humiliating sequence for the dollar following some type of 3-wave move overall. However it materializes, some big collapse for the dollar to follow. And then some point way in the future into the 2020s, see it finally turn around beneath 75. So the long-term picture for dollar yen remains bearish. From 1971 all the way into the 2020s, I'm looking for a continued down move in the dollar yen. It's just a short-term move. I'm looking for another upswing, which I want to get a hold of. And so I will be updating this in the future, and I will be trying to keep this in line for the next move up, ultimately. If you have any ideas about how to handle this, let me know, because it obviously looks like I cannot take it as 1, 2, well, I'm repeating myself more than usual now. I cannot take it as a 5-wave move as it looks right now, and this move here is probably not a truncation. If you want to force a move here, so it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, and 5 for a truncation. Okay, maybe. So if we call this a truncation here for wave 5, then we have a 5-wave sequence. So that's it. So you can force a leading diagonal for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you maintain this count, have wave 4 here, and a leading and a possible truncation for 5. That is the bullish count. That's the best I can do right now on a bullish count, short of this extended sequence being wave 4. So if this is ultimately the wave high, 1 high here, 3 waves here, 3 waves up, and let's see something else, preferably another low of some sort, and then a move up. So it seems to be near. It may be channeling. We've had 5 waves down. I'm going to see if this is the actual low, but probably another swing down. So I'll take it from there. I wanted to point out, first of all, an opportunity that seems to be on the way. Second of all, how well this has worked out as an Elliott wave sequence going back to 1971. Thirdly, what has happened coming off the gold standard with the window closing. And that does not get much coverage in mainstream news, and I think a lot of people are not educated about the dollar and gold and the history of that. But as you can see, it's made a difference in life in general, with value falling, dollar value falling heavily since then. So if you have any ideas about wave counts here, let me know. If you favor the idea of 3 waves overall, let me know. I mean, if that does materialize, we're probably looking at, well, it's an all-year move. Basically, dollar yen is going to be bearish all year if you're looking at this 3rd wave. I prefer to see it bullish now for a strong move up, and then tying in with DX terminal on the next high somewhere above 104. Dollar pukes, dollar yen turns down for the final wave 5. So that's how I'm looking at it. And I'll be glad to hear any opinion you have about it if you want to talk about it. It's interesting how it's turned out, I think, and there should be a good opportunity in here too. I'm not going to do the same count on euro yen. I don't usually trade that. I have a look at it sometimes. I did find a trade recently on it. But for now, I'm interested in this and in the possibility of the dollar moving up higher. Okay, bye-bye.